Hello and welcome back to the Boston Commune.
This week's incredulous installment will feature commentary from Comrade Scott, Joe, Ellie, and myself. We discuss the source of recent atmospheric particulates, where the Catholic Church makes and stashes its cash, and how landlords are about to fuck millions of people out of their homes. I lay out the evolution of the Magnitsky Act as part of a dissection of Cuban crises and the relationships between media, government, and common people. Lastly, Ellie tells us a story about one of the most optimistic Indonesians this side of civil aviation.
Please do us a favor, share this content, do yourself a favor, enjoy your Epoch.
We know that Fidel Castro is undergoing a just struggle for independence, a struggle to be not under the hegemony of American imperialism like all the other puppets in the Caribbean. When America says jump, they say how high. Fidel Castro is concerned with one thing, making sure that the national resources of his country serve the priority of the well-being of his people.
Mic check.
Mic check.
Mic check.
Mic check, motherfuckers. Joe, mic check, motherfucker.
Okay, then.
Joe, seriously, we're doing a thing. Mic check.
Mic check.
Thank you.
There. Happy?
Let's get serious about this.
Let's get serious about some shit in episode 58.
Yeah, we're not
doing it
playing
for 2
around
years.
I'm incapable of taking shit seriously at this point.
Well, what about the Smaug?
The Smaug.
Oh, yeah.
Smaug.
The crippling smog that is making it unsafe to breathe the air. I get the reference you're making, but I'm just going to, like, just kind of sidestep it.
No, you will. Yeah, it's fine, actually. Who gives a shit about Lord of the Rings?
Only me.
I
Literally
thought that one
only
was
me.
mine.
Yes, there's been a lot of Smaug from the wildfires. World's on fire, etc.
So much of the western United States is on fire that the smoke and the dust that is accumulating as a result of said fires has made its way over to the northeast United States, where the air quality is now 3 times what is safe for most human beings.
That's awesome. That's what I like to hear.
You mean the small particulates in the air are 3 times higher? Yeah.
Yes. Than what is
Love to hear it.
considered to be safe to breathe by the EPA.
I'm surprised. I feel like it's taken too long for this to become part of our normal human experience.
What, air quality or bad air quality?
Yeah, just declining air quality. Like, the Northeast has kind of escaped the worst of climate change, but I feel like this is going to be more normal.
Yes.
Great. My respiratory issues will get worse.
Yeah. I think we all have respiratory issues on this show, so that's great for us. The air quality was also really bad in the 70s, but, you know,
there's
we
there's
failed.
something the EPA has that is known as the Air Quality Index, or AQI, which is an index of, like, how much of this stuff is in the air. And so anything below 50 means this air is safe to breathe. Anything above 50 means that for people with respiratory issues, there's a high likelihood that you will start to develop physical and palpable health issues as a result of breathing in this air. Anything over 100, people who don't have respiratory issues will start having these problems alongside the people who already have existing issues with their respiratory system. Yesterday morning, the air quality index in Wakefield, where I was yesterday morning, was 171. In Lowell today, it was about 159.
Number 1, baby.
What's the number where you just, like, drop dead? Because
I have no idea.
179 is fucking crazy.
I just checked now, and in Lowell, it has dropped down to 81. So
if it gets up to, like, 500, do you just, like, breathe in, and then your throat is just like, fuck it, and then, like, you just die?
I think it's like 250 or something.
Oh,
like
my
that.
God. Because 179 is, oh, my God. That's almost 200. That's fucking crazy. Wow. This is climate change. It's already happened.
And the elderly man in the diner sitting next to me was like, oh, the weather is great. I'm like, really? Because I can barely breathe in it.
No, the weather was really nice this afternoon, at least.
Yeah, 250, at least according to what I'm looking at. 250.
Jesus.
Considered dangerous. Quote,
Just
any
dangerous.
exposure to the air, even for a few minutes, can lead to serious health effects on everybody.
Oh, great. It's at 81 in Lowell right now.
According to this index, the air has reached a high level of pollution and is unhealthy for sensitive groups.
Yep. It's been like that in Lowell all week. I was stuck at work until like 3 in the morning on Sunday, and it was like 100 at like 3 a.m. in Andover.
Well, I mean, it still doesn't even I got a letter from, I think it was from Regional Home Care, which is like
Hey, at least you guys got a letter.
It's like the group overseeing my,
I didn't get no letter.
No, this is different. I think it's like, I don't know, it's the group that I get my sleep-related healthcare through. Like, they provided me with my CPAP machine. I got a letter about my CPAP machine, and the manufacturer, Philips, did a voluntary recall because they got, I guess, a bunch of comments from consumers. They were having like serious respiratory issues, and the recall notice states that like the foam inside of the CPAP machine with repeated use degrades into particulates and then gives you fucking cancer. So it's not like I really have an alternative CPAP machine that I can just like, oh, let me just use my other CPAP machine.
Jesus. Joe,
Yes.
try to get us to a happier place.
Yeah, give us something to...
Happier place. Oh, you're asking the wrong man. But
Make something up. Martians came down and they're like, hey, pretty chill. And they just want to
And
get
they
high.
were actually communists.
Yeah. They're just like, you need to rapidly
I would like to
radicalize your society, but let's get high first. And we're like, yeah. Anyways, Joe, talk about the Vatican.
Yes, so I read while I was at work,
Good Lord.
this was in Reuters, that the Vatican has made public for the first time its like budget and like a detailed list of its financial and real estate holdings. They published 2 documents, over 50 pages of financial material, and it was of the central bureaucracy's like budget, and it showed that the Vatican currently owns over 4,000 properties in Italy and over 1,120 overseas. And this isn't counting all of the various embassies they have all over the world. But the interesting thing is that only about 40% of their properties were actually institutional buildings like schools, convents, churches, and hospitals. 60% of them were just commercial real estate holdings. And only about 14% of those properties owned in Italy were actually rented at market rate. So I guess the church believes in rent control for people who work for them, I guess. Interesting. The reason why this is coming up is because I guess the Pope wants to be more transparent about things, but also because the Catholic Church is currently being sued over a property in the upscale part of South London where they purchased a property in 2014. And a trial is set to begin on Tuesday. It's a trial of 10 people in connection with the purchase of the property, including a prominent cardinal. They're being charged with a range of financial crimes, ranging from embezzlement, money laundering, fraud, extortion, and the abuse of office. Also, the other interesting thing is that, according to these reports, the Vatican is currently running a deficit of about 65 million euros.
Wow.
The greatest, single largest, and most deeply layered non-governmental bureaucracy on the face of the planet is currently running a deficit of about 65 million euros. And the funny thing is they're blaming their deficit on COVID.
Yeah, I mean, people can't praise the Lord when they gotta stay home, am I right? Is that how that works? I don't know.
Part of what they're
Praise some
attributing to
anime.
their deficit is lack of tourism to the Vatican.
Oh, I see.
It's like, really?
Well,
Not
COVID
that
can't
many people go to the
defend
Vatican.
itself.
You can't really explain like 65 million euros and be like, well, we didn't get enough
do you mean?
stupid people to show up to the praise the Pope
Joe.
or whatever the fuck.
Joe, you Catholic?
I was raised it, yes.
Okay. Out of any sort of like curiosity related or unrelated to your religious affiliation, do you have any interest in visiting the Vatican?
Somewhat. I mean, the architecture. of it
Well,
all,
there you
the
go.
history. But not
Because
enough for me to
I
want.
was raised Protestant, and I believe I would like to go to the Vatican and at least see what it's like.
Oh, fuck
I don't
that.
understand Protestants. I really don't.
We're like, I mean,
It's an
we went
idea.
after that ghost way harder than you guys did. Is all I'll say.
It's the ideology of "fuck you, Dad."
Yeah, pretty much. It's
But
like I'm
also-
just going to believe in this harder than you, basically.
as far as I see it, Protestantism is basically, at least in its contemporary form, it's basically like libertarianism as like theology.
I mean, it's like the modern form is like,
You get out, you we break your power, you get off this nation. I demand judgment on you. I demand a vaccination to come immediately. Yes.
but like the traditional form is basically like Martin Luther didn't think that the church was orthodox enough. And
No, I understand that.
And he didn't so like we are supposed to be more conservative and more, hardcore about our
theology.
faith. I guess. It definitely depends like where you're
because like
what
the
denomination
contemporary
you're talking about.
like the contemporary, especially in the United States, on the particular view of like wealth and poverty, contemporary like mainline Protestantism is like viewed as like wealth is a product of good faith instead of like something that is unseemly and sinful.
Yeah, and which is interesting because it started as a reaction to the greed of the Catholic Church. But me in particular, I was raised congregational, which like actually like came a little bit before the Lutheran Reformation, and so like
it came a little bit.
So it's a little bit more like it's chiller, basically.
I was raised hardcore Irish Catholic, but I feel like that's probably worked out for the best because like on some level it does kind of prime you to be a leftist because like Roman Catholicism, like some of the main tenets are like help the poor. Extreme wealth is like extremely sinful. Solidarity with other people.
Yeah, pay to get into heaven, stuff like that.
Well, that was like the dark.
I know.
I mean,
yeah, but I mean the Catholic Church still actively does exorcisms, which is very strange.
I think
the Catholic Church has always been an institution that is very behind the times. Like, I mean, the Catholic Church was of the official position that the Earth was the center of the solar system until the year 1994. So, it's not really an institution that is with the times.
Imagine a man of the 90s being like, we live in a heliocentric universe. It was so weird.
John Paul II made the formal apology on behalf of the church via email in 1994.
Did they ever apologize for funding?
Because the church
wholeheartedly supporting the Nazis in the 40s. Did they ever apologize?
Galileo.
That was also via email. Ironically, by a man who was vociferously anti-communist.
Okay.
That's some nice vocab.
Yeah, good. We love it. That's why the Russian Orthodox made the fucking the Romanov saints, because Catholicism is
well, that's
organized religion in general. Is a capitalist enterprise. I mean, God.
What I think of a college history professor of mine who referred to his religious views as "I'm a recovering Catholic," and I relate to that.
My dad said the same thing. So.
Instead of recovering addict, we recovering Catholics.
At
least I am. I'm the only apostate in the family, so it's a little awkward.
Any more stories, Joe? Jeez.
Oh yeah, not to crush the mood, but this week,
dude?
Joe's got 4 minutes. You think you can do it?
Oh yeah, I can.
Do it.
So on Sunday, 6 million people will be thrown out of their homes in the United States when the CDC's eviction moratorium is allowed to expire.
Oh God!
This past week, in federal court, landlords won in federal court a lawsuit that claimed that the CDC's eviction moratorium, which was instituted by the Trump administration last March to combat COVID-19, was an unconstitutional overreach of power because it essentially, this wasn't the exact argument, but in so many words, it impeded upon their ability to profit via throwing people out of their homes. And the Biden administration is just allowing this to happen. So come Sunday, August 1st, 6 million people are at immediate peril of being tossed out of their homes when this moratorium is allowed to expire. So on the issue of housing, as tragic as this sounds to say, the Trump administration was less terrible for working people than this current presidential administration. Because the administration has literally said absolutely jack shit about this.
That's fine.
It only affects millions upon millions of people.
But I guess I'm arguing in favor of Trump right now. Like, he was a landlord himself. Like, maybe that thinking
That's the irony of it.
I know, exactly. That's what's so odd and funny about how, like, I don't know.
It's so weird that the Trump administration was better on higher education and student loans. It's better
the
so far on
slumlord
housing.
of New York.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyways, all right.
it doesn't really surprise me that he didn't give a shit, because he was asked, it was a bullshit bad faith, like, fear-mongering question, but he was asked about Afghanistan. He's like, don't you care about women's rights? And Biden was basically like, I don't give a fuck. Like, why are you asking me these things? I mean, granted, the reporter was trying to get him to be like, I support, like, not withdrawing from Afghanistan.
Steven Crowder might be dying, by the way.
Hooray!
I don't mean to laugh, but, you know.
I'll laugh for you if you feel bad
He says it took a turn for the worse. His lung has collapsed, but he hopes to get better.
Oh.
But, like, yeah, no, I know. I kind of feel sorry for the guy. It's like he faces Sam Cedar, and then his body decides to just quit. Like, it's,
Yeah.
As
God,
someone who
what a-
has experienced a lung collapse of my own, oof. I mean, it took fentanyl for me to, like, stop feeling the effects of that one.
God damn it. There's going to be some shit worse. Like, I'm going to watch some episode of ER. It's going to have some lung collapse in it. And it's going to freak me the fuck out. Because that shit is some body horror shit. Scares me. Fucking scares me. Wasn't National Grid going to turn off your power right now?
Well, they said it would happen possibly between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m.
I'm making Joe's life too transparent on the show. I apologize, everyone.
Last time they said they were going to, but it didn't happen because there was like a monsoon happening. So, like, well, I guess we don't want to do it in dangerous conditions.
Yeah, there was also a huge storm earlier tonight. Yeah.
So I don't actually know if they're going to do it or they're not going to do it. Or like, well, another extreme weather event happened, so we had to cancel. So we'll do it again, and then you'll forget about it, and then we'll do it. Like, I'm starting to feel like that's going to be what happens.
Joe, is there any more? Do you have any more stories? Do you want to like tempt fate right now?
I-93 is fucked, but like,
I mean, MIT did a simulation, and they say that society is going to collapse in 2040. I mean, that's
a little optimistic if you ask me.
I mean, 19 years. It's not a long time. So
my guess was 2035.
All right, whatever.
I very much.
So things got to change.
I may not be a zoomer, but I have the existential dread of one.
I just made everyone sad. I apologize.
Oh, I still feel the same, so.
I mean, think of it this way. They did a simulation in the 60s to see how best the United States could win the Vietnam War, and they put in all the different strategies and how many troops and how many, the stats. They put on the stats of each side. They ran the simulation, and the simulation's answer was, "You've already won the war. Why do you need my help?" So, simulations aren't always accurate. I'm trying to find a silver lining here. So,
yeah, that's what it sounds like.
So we got to change things. Let's blow up some senators and stop all this big business and industry.
Can we just, like,
being a landlord is not a job. Go fuck yourself.
Can we just, like, bring out the guillotine for the landlords, or at the very least send them to the gulag so they might see the error of their ways?
I mean, landlords, gulags is like the guillotine is saved for the politicians, for the real and the guys who like the big finance people. Like landlords are just like they're just pushovers for capital. Really, they still suck ass, but they're just pushovers.
Get housing.
Given the fact that BlackRock is becoming a massive landlord and like large investment firms are just buying up whole neighborhoods.
Yeah. Well, like the head of that firm would get the guillotine, whereas the employees would get the gulag, basically.
That sounds fine to me.
Yeah. Okay.
That's acceptable.
Parody. The FBI. Who are you? What? Hi.
CIA. Please don't assassinate us.
Jesus.
I mean, they're too incompetent to get it to like effectively do that anyways. The
Don't
Fidel
make me
Castro
put on
record is an indication.
The suicide machine gun from Shooter. Don't make me do that. Let's move on. Hey.
Okay.
Is there a theory primer or like anything? Do you want to talk about Mr. Comrade Jesse, or do you just want to? What's up? How you doing?
So I'm just kind of brooding over the increased sanctions on Cuba right now.
That's bullshit.
I'm reading all these really shitty pieces about how the Cuban people are clamoring for freedom and how
they're
everybody's
just clamoring for
calling on
$7,000
President Biden
bill
to respond to the will of the people to extend democracy, and how Cuba is a
in other words,
quote-unquote
the Cuban
failed
people
state.
are clamoring for like a massive ambulance bill if they actually
How
do go to the
protests
hospital.
have broken out on the island.
The bourgeoisie just wants capitalism back on the island.
That has been thwarted by years and in many administrations long
Who the fuck?
communism with which is a failed ideology. And
If it's a failed ideology, then, like, what are we in comparison? Because we are, like, a literal shithole country. Like, a literal failed state.
I mean, depending who you're speaking to. I forget who it was, but, like, I think somebody said that, like, we have to save Cuba from the Castro regime, and it's like...
They're not even in charge anymore.
No, exactly. It's like, what are you talking about?
It's like...
They've been dead for years.
Excuse me, 2009 called and would like your stupid take back.
Yeah. Yeah. If anything, the government is more of the people now, since the passing of the Castro.
well, this is really bad because now
like 15% of the fucking, like, it's just rich people.
It's not
just like,
enough that we're already
capitalism.
embargoing basic medical supplies.
well, okay, so there were some small protests in Cuba, and there were some small protests by Cuban Americans at the Capitol, and like this is what happens when foreign policy is crafted like the same way that you'd write a clickbait article. For the most part, they're not actually Cuban citizens. Like, it's people who already left Cuba, have not lived in Cuba for a long time.
Yeah,
My
or their
grandpa's
kids.
plantation was expropriated by the Castro regime, and now I'm having a hissy fit over it.
Yeah, no, exactly, yeah.
And the response to this has not really come particularly from Cuban police. Like, it's not like they have this repressive state apparatus that's like gunning people down in the streets who dissent. It's the people of Cuba are...
There's plenty of people in Cuba who disagree with what the government does, but they're not protesting.
Right. I mean, like, basically there are people in Cuba that are... They're not saying that they want to be free from the Cuban regime. They're saying they want to be free from the sanctions. And this is being spun as a critique of communism on the whole, and it's just very,
Even though
very
it's really a critique
dishonest.
of imperialism, from what you've described.
All of this over fucking sugar. Sorry.
Back when we had the election special, and I was sort of musing on my concerns about a Biden administration, my primary concern was that they would have an actually competent war machine cooked up that, with the right PR, they would be able to spin events like this such that they could align American people with calls for a coup or intervention. And I mean, the way that American media covers Cuba is different than essentially every other nation on Earth. Because we've had such a contentious relationship with Cuba since the fucking Bay of Pigs. Like, we've been in as much of a propaganda bubble in regard specifically to Cuba as you could possibly imagine. And so the sanctions against Cuba, which, by the way, let me remind the listeners, the only other country out of the more than 100 recognized nations on this planet that agrees with us when it comes to foreign policy with Cuba is the nation of Israel. Literally the only one.
That's depressing.
Rather than easing up on the existing sanctions that we have, which means that any financial transactions that Cuba attempts to do with any other nation, if it's tied to an American bank or a bank controlled by an American ally, that transaction ends up getting stopped in its tracks, which means that Cuba effectively cannot participate in trade. Rather than easing up on those sanctions, Biden has decided to essentially extend the Magnitsky Act.
The who act?
The Magnitsky Act. It was like the act that laid out the sanctions against Russia.
Oh.
The Magnitsky Act is a rabbit hole. The legislative thread began in 2009 with the suspicious death of a Russian-Ukrainian lawyer named Sergei Magnitsky, who had been investigating Russian tax fraud. A couple of years later, the Sergei Magnitsky Rule of Law Accountability Act of 2012 made its way through the House and Senate and was signed into law by Barack Obama on December 14, 2012. Its aim was to punish allegedly corrupt Russian officials, barring them from entering or banking with the USA. The bill also permanently normalized trade relations with Russia. The Obama administration released a list of 18 individuals affected by the act in April 2013. Russia directly reciprocated by banning 18 American officials from entering Russia. Fast forward to the end of 2016. Congress incorporated the Global Magnitsky Human Rights Accountability Act into its National Defense Authorization Act for 2017. The U.S. thus unilaterally granted itself the power to sanction any foreign official implicated in human rights abuses on Earth. Donald Trump then implemented the act with an executive order at the end of 2017, imposing sanctions upon 13 more individuals and declaring a national emergency which somehow related to human rights abuses and corruption globally. The Treasury Department's Office of Foreign Assets Control sanctioned a further 39 companies and individuals, including Nicaraguan Electoral Council President Roberto Rivas Reyes. The Global Magnitsky Act has since been used to justify sanctions on individuals throughout Asia, Africa, and South America who challenge American imperialism. The act has been invoked to sanction the Cuban Ministry of Interior twice this year already. First for, quote, harassing and surveilling journalists, dissidents, activists, and members of civil society groups, unquote, and then for, quote, violently repressing protests, unquote, allegedly in concert with, quote, violent mobs mobilized by Cuban Communist Party First Secretary Miguel Diaz-Canel, unquote. Not all of these sanctions are necessarily malicious. For instance, when applied to the 17 individuals linked to the murder of Jamal Khashoggi, but the principles informing when and how they are enforced do not hold up under scrutiny. In some cases, the 2017 executive order serves as a precedent for punishing whomever the administration chooses without any requirement of proof of misconduct. In other words, the executive branch can selectively sanction foreigners at will. It's easy to imagine the Departments of State and Defense utilizing the Treasury as an auxiliary weapon of war. And what better way to legitimize dangerous foreign policy than to invoke the same law which punishes corrupt oligarchs? Perhaps the more obvious and stomach-churning problem with this kind of legislation is the blatant hypocrisy of a government which uses every tool at its disposal to infringe upon human rights, while refusing to acknowledge the consequences on civil life elsewhere in the world, let alone our own lopsided police state. So is Cuba perfect? Hell no. They deal with many of the same problems that other socialist governments face around the world. Younger generations are confronted with lingering social conservatism. Some neighborhoods are lacking in infrastructure and internet service. There are periodic shortages of basic goods. Public officials are vulnerable to bribery, etc. Do I think that all the anti-government protesters were CIA plants? No, I really don't. But after doing some research, I couldn't help but notice that all of the English language networks were dubbing footage of the protests from a local Florida news outlet. The only clear sentiment common to the citizens of Cuba is that regardless of what kind of government they ultimately establish for themselves, they want America to stay the fuck out of it.
The problems in Cuba stemming from shortages
are because of the U.S. embargo.
They're not because the government is communist, it's because of the economic sanctions.
Most people who live in Cuba understand the source of the shortages that they're experiencing, and maybe not all of them do, but if that's the case, then I guess it sort of pushes back against this narrative that, like, if you live under a quote-unquote communist regime, then the government impedes greatly on your life. I mean, that's really not the case for the average Cuban. Like, they conduct business as usual. They usually have more freedoms than we do to conduct business. And honestly, a lot of the money they get is from, like, American tourists, because people love to visit Cuba. And people
isn't it ironic?
People love to live in Cuba. And I mean, this became this was essentially one of the biggest problems that Castro had to deal with, was that so many Americans were going to Cuba and spending money that it was like, it was creating like a split between the national currency of Cuba and the foreign currency. And now that problem is gone because
there's still a split. There's like two currencies in Cuba.
Right, but they're both valid currency now. It's not like the government doesn't recognize the American dollar if you are like a Cuban shop owner or something. You can sell to Americans and you can take their American money and there's not going to be any legal repercussions for doing so. The most recent shortages in Cuba are a result of Americans no longer visiting Cuba and spending money. And that goes hand in hand with the increased sanctions, the embargo, and the reinstatement of travel restrictions between America and Cuba. So, like,
Obama lifted those, right?
Obama lifted them, Trump
And then
reinstated
Trump was
them.
like, fuck yo.
And now
Fuck with
Biden
that.
is being
Fuck what
even
he
more
did.
high.
Fuck what that black person did.
Well, Biden hinted that he would restore
No, he won't.
the Obama-era relations with Cuba, but
LOL.
he's backpedaled on that so fucking
I'll
hard.
fucking believe it when I fucking see it, Joe.
Yeah, now would be a great time for him to do that.
Yeah.
If he were going to do that.
You
Which is
bitch.
not.
Yeah, fuck you. Anyways, sorry. Keep going.
I mean, that's really all I have to say. Like, this whole thing is a charade, you know?
It's a shit show.
Not the okay, so there are people that are genuinely experiencing hardship, but most of it is in
Nah,
America.
dog. Yeah.
Most of them are Cuban Americans that have not
Who are
lived in
always
Cuba for a
protesting.
long fucking time.
The right-wing Cuban American lobby is very disproportionately powerful in this country.
Yes. The Havana to Miami pipeline, baby.
Very much the definition of punching above one's weight.
And I mean, Havana in particular, like, the easiest critique that one could leverage against Castro is that he was very socially conservative on queer issues. But Havana is kind of a bastion of queer liberation now. Like, they celebrate for weeks on end every fucking year.
So there goes that critique.
And isn't it ironic? See, that's just actually ironic.
That shit's more ironic than everything in that song.
You know? It's like rain. Anyways. Ellie.
Yes.
Do you have
Do I have
a thing?
Okay.
Joe, don't.
Yes,
Motherfucker.
yes, I do.
Oh shit.
Hold on.
Oh shit.
This is, yeah.
Crowd is pumped.
We have a crowd now? This is news.
Yeah. I can't yell this week because I have kind of my throat's kind of messed up, which is why I haven't been talking. But yeah, you can't make this shit up.
Smoking packs. I've been smoking too much. You can't make this shit up with Comrade Ellie.
Alright, there's a lot going on here.
Me.
You can't make this shit up with Comrade Ellie.
Yeah, today I have for you the story of a very based individual from Indonesia who he got the COVIDs.
You got the
And then
COVIDs.
It was like, oh shit, I need to take a plane trip. And I will not be able to take a plane trip if I am obviously with COVID. So fortunately, his wife didn't have COVID. So he bought a plane ticket in her name. He got her ID. He got her vax card. He got her test results. And he put on a niqab even. This guy took it all the way. He did like a fucking, this is like a Homer Simpson level, or a classic hijinks kind of thing.
Classic hijinks.
He became his wife to be on a plane.
He became his wife.
Did it work? No.
Sorry, bro.
GG.
Yeah. I guess
What?
it sounds like
You said
it sounds
GG?
like-
Yeah.
yeah,
I know what it
GG.
means, ass. Alright. Love you,
I guess he didn't.
Scott knows what that means.
This guy did not even change into his wife's clothing until he was already on the plane. Which
That
is,
what? That's
yeah,
funny.
He went into the plane's bathroom and changed his clothes in there. I guess he
So
just
wait.
thought nobody would notice, but that's how it happened. And he got arrested. The end.
That's just like that's just a good story.
Yeah.
It's just the
Yeah.
whole thing.
Got a beginning,
Yeah, I
a
love
middle,
it.
and an end.
You can't make this Joe up.
You can't.
You can't.
Couldn't do
He's
it.
always exciting. He's saying exciting, fun things. Joseph.
Wait, why am I being singled out?
You're not being singled out. You're being
You're being-
celebrated. We love you.
You're being like knighted right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Neil, Joseph, Rise.
I don't know.
Joseph.
I don't know why I did this.
You're an integral component of this show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what happens to the show in the weeks that I can't make it?
We
I
just
don't know, we're
evolve
fine.
into complete
A lot of weird shit. Nothing really makes sense.
societal breakdown. We just
What a
evolve
happy.
into our more primitive forms and
Uh-huh.
Damn it! Now I feel like they put pressure on me to like
tease
actually
at
like,
each other.
be here.
Make a
and
lot more
we come out of
sex
the
jokes.
show with just a bunch of tropical diseases and who knows.
Uh-huh.
And we can't get good treatment for them because we don't live in Cuba. And we're
Well,
So
I guess
very
you can
relevant.
blame the societal collapse on my company when they call me to work on weird
Yeah.
days.
Yeah, basically.
The society of this podcast.
I got woken up at 12:45 this morning because work decided to call me asking if I could work 7 to 3 today. I'm like, who the fuck answers the phone at like 12:45 in the morning?
you do.
Thank you. I was gonna say that.
No, I didn't. I put it on silent and tried to go back to sleep.
Are they gonna fire you if you don't answer the phone at 12:45 in the morning?
No,
Yeah.
Well, then you should put your fucking phone on silent, boy.
I forgot to.
My boss texts me sometimes and says like, "Hey, can you work these hours?" And I look at it and I think, "Nope, turn off my phone."
Oh, I get those text
and
messages
then I just
too,
go about my day.
And then you text back a close-up shot of one of your nipples.
No, I don't do that. That's weird.
No,
Yeah.
I think to myself all day,
That's
like,
rude.
does like anybody like actually? Do they ever actually get anybody like when third shift calls someone like, "Hey, can you work
Yeah.
till, like 7 o'clock?" Like, does anybody
Joe.
ever actually answer the phone?
There's plenty of rise and grind weirdos out there that want to work weird hours. What are you talking about, bro?
Oh, I know. We have one of those at work. Last month he tried to.
hours, bro.
Oh, we have
Right.
several of those kind of guys. But that's
Yeah.
just because like rent is
Fucking
expensive,
worse.
and they're like, well,
Fucking
I want to
assholes.
kill myself, but like
Oh,
it's easy, and I need to pay the rent. But like
I don't
for
know
the
if we
most
can
part,
just
it's just like
wiggle our way out of
we do have a few
suicide,
weirdos. Like one of my coworkers
course you
unironically tried to convince me the apocalypse was going to happen in 10 years because the Antichrist.
It's
is
your
here.
job. I give you money, you give me ideas.
You never say thank you.
That's what the money is for.
Does your coworker understand what the apocalypse is?
Yes, he does Bible study like twice a week.
Oh, so he doesn't understand what it is. Okay.
oh, good lord.
Yeah, he decided he was going to convert from Catholicism to Protestantism because he doesn't like all of the rules. That's what he told me.
How did I get here?
Yeah, that's how I felt. It's like, oh, I left for the same reason you did. I didn't want to deal with the rules. And I'm like, no, I became an atheist for very different reasons. Thank you.
I didn't want to deal with the rules. Whatever, dork. Anyways.
He wants different rules.
I mean, he thinks Candace Owens is a very, like, scary, smart
Okay,
person.
why the fuck? Okay. Yeah.
So this that.
One of my managers was watching old Rush Limbaugh clips on YouTube the other day, so.
Ah,
Yeah, he was talking with Candace Owens.
Letting the
like, you know,
days
and-
go by! Anyways.
Speaking of
And I was
Cuba
like,
and
isn't she a
religion,
crazy person? He's like, oh, no, she's like crazy smart. And I'm like, okay, if you
She's
say
a
so.
crazy like a fox person.
yes, Jesse.
there's some beautiful temples in Cuba.
Good
Like
segue.
Jewish ones? Yeah, I've been to them.
Really?
Well, I've been to 2 that are in Havana.
Wait, you've
Yeah,
been to
sorry.
Cuba and you didn't talk about it at all?
I didn't have anything cool to say. I went to Cuba for a
What
week
does
when I was
Cuba
in
feel
grad
like
school.
when you're
Okay,
there?
you
Like,
went to Cuba for a week and you
Yeah.
didn't share any of your experience with it?
uh,
I don't know. I have guilt about being
God.
able to afford to go to Cuba when I was 25. It was cool.
I feel
Yeah.
Very nice.
It's cool, right?
Yes.
Like there's like a
garbage is
all right. So why
Maybe I should
don't
do
you
that for my
dispel some of the
25th
myths?
birthday.
Like for instance, communist architecture is boring and people don't get to be expressive. It's like one of the most beautiful artistic places on the fucking planet.
It's very nice. Yeah. There's like this street that goes down to the
Very
library,
nice.
and
It's very nice.
it's very
Yeah, that's what I was
nice. Yeah, it's cool. I would go back.
I'm now getting the
Wow.
urge to do that.
Wow.
Here.
That was really fucking informative. God damn it, we
Yeah,
love it.
I didn't fucking bring it up because like I got nothing to tell you. You could ask me questions, but there's not much to say.
This is
Except,
mildly
there's some Jews
disappointing.
there. I did a project about how there's Jews there. It was cool. I do remember being told that, like, when we were on the freeway, there's almost no cars on the freeway because most people can't afford gas enough to drive a lot. And I remember the two currencies. I remember, like, there's, like, the one that all of the tourists have that's worth more, and so businesses want you to use that one.
Is that the American dollar?
It wasn't literally the American dollar. It was something else that was equivalent to the American dollar, I think, but it was its own thing. And then there's the one that's worth less that, like, actual Cuban people will use at their, like, farmers markets with each other and stuff.
Labor notes.
Labor notes. Well, we love Cuba. If you'd like to know more, why not listen to the Blowback podcast? It's pretty informative about the Cuban
okay, now I know what you're talking about.
Revolution
Sorry.
and what happened after Season 2.
Let me just say real quick, both of the currencies in Cuba were called the peso. So that's why it's confusing. I mean, it's just one thing now.
It's not very helpful for the people.
One of them had to be pegged to the US dollar. So
Right.
It's called the
Because
Cuban
everything is
convertible
pegged to the
peso.
US dollar, unfortunately.
Yeah, because literally fucking everything on earth is pegged to the US dollar.
Which is why I would find those arguments, like complaining about the debt ceiling, to be like strawman arguments, because like any serious person, anybody who has half a brain cell, understands that like that is the ultimate dead man's vest of like, oh, if we allow the United States to default on its debt, its credit rating will be downgraded, and that will instantly trigger a global financial crisis because everything, literally everything, is pegged to our money. And if the thing that everything is pegged to gets downgraded, everybody's fucked.
What do you mean it's a dead man's chest?
Dead man's vest. Like if we allow the debt ceiling, if we allow the government to default on its debt, everybody
we'll blow everything up.
Yes.
All right.
Financially speaking, yes.
Yeah, suicide vest.
This is funny. I mean, this is on the Wikipedia page, so take it with a grain of salt.
I believe it already.
It is cited. There might occasionally be places which use this system to confuse tourists and charge them in CUC when they should be charging them in CUP.
CUP!
Which translates to the Cuban
CUP.
convertible peso.
Watch UP, baby. Does Cuba have those little, like, trash can urinals around? So you could just piss right out in public? Like France. You can just piss right out in public in France.
Cuba.
Maybe. They got these public urinals. They look like trash cans. You can just flop your dick in there and take a piss. It's awesome.
Whoa.
It's awesome.
Where do they have those?
It's in France.
There's some really nice Cuban toilets. Oh, there are public urinals in Cuba.
It's awesome. It's so
Hell
cool.
yeah.
Like
Feels
and
good.
then there's ones like where like you hit a button and it comes out from under the ground and it's like a 4-person unit. It's really cool.
Oh, it's like...
Yeah.
It's dope. So yeah,
I would hate
apparently...
to accidentally be standing on that when it went up.
Me too.
I don't think it actually can do that.
But in Japan, they've introduced these public see-through toilets, which is a big raise because Japan is a weird country.
Yeah.
Full of sex perverts.
It's like full
I take that
probably
back.
tons of people.
This is what
Tons of
happens
people
when a
who
country
want-
is
want people
completely
to-
like molded
Joe's gonna make it worse.
in the eye of an empire, a global hegemonic empire.
Uh-huh.
The U.S.
They made them do a capitalism, and
the
now
U.S.
they're weird.
made Japan
They
adopt
like the CUP.
a Western kind of culture and capitalist idealism, and so that they spun off and have become a sort of a hyper-capitalist version of what America is. Like they're
I
That's
missed the
genuinely
beginning of that.
disturbing.
I was looking at
they've always been like 15 years ahead of us.
Yeah.
So when the flying cars come, it's going to come from Japan first, not us. But we have the killer robots first. Maybe they have the killer
Toyota's
robots.
currently fighting like green energy initiatives because they
Does that mean they can't have flying cars, though?
bet everything on like hydrogen powered cars, and that didn't really work.
Hydrogen.
So now they're like trying to stop all of these like clean.
Isn't hydrogen
energy.
like 1,000 times more explosive and volatile than gasoline? Like, what the fuck?
Yes.
I don't understand. Anyways, that's so fucking stupid, dude.
Toyota bet basically everything on that, and so now that they've understood that
It's not a fucking spaceship.
they're trying to stop all of these like clean carbon things because like they're trying to buy time so they can catch up on the electric market.
Dude. Ugh.
Yo, speaking of Japan, I'm gonna do that thing that Scott used to do where he would tell you what to watch, which is you should watch Kantaro, the Sweet Tooth Salaryman, which is on Netflix, which is a Japanese TV show about a guy who is a business guy, and then he has this very, like, intense obsession with dessert.
I'm a guy who's a business guy. I like dessert. It's oh my.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm a guy who's a business guy. I like dessert. Everybody guys. I don't know. All right, we can wrap this up. My name is Scott.
I love the indecision in that, like the uncertainty.
You can also find me on SoundCloud, Bandcamp at Sweaty Wife.
Sweaty Wife.
You can find me on Instagram at Sweaty Wife, Twitter, and Letterboxd at Death Mullet. I probably will stop sharing my Instagram for personal reasons. Joseph, Mr. Joseph.
Woo! Follow Scott. My name is Checks Notes Joe.
Yeah, thanks for you just totally just fucking let all the air out of the balloon. But yeah, okay, thanks, Joe.
You're welcome.
This is why he's here. He's here to kill my jokes, and he's here
Somebody's
to
gotta
fucking
do it.
glum everyone up. Glum everyone up?
Yeah.
You're welcome.
I don't know if that makes...
Glum up.
Glum up.
I'm gonna glum you up, boys.
You're welcome. You can find me on Twitter talking about the Red Sox and politics and history on Twitter at JLFB96. I'm not going to bother talking about my Instagram, but like...
Yeah, don't follow us on Instagram. Fuck off.
Get out of our private lives.
Where can we find you, Ellie?
Well...
Do it in that voice.
You can't find me anywhere.
Oh, wait, that's right. Jesus.
But, so, finally, Java got a fucking website. So Scott doesn't have to play that anymore.
Yes, I do.
You can, but there's nothing to
what
connect
the hell
it
is
to.
this? Some kind of tube?
Just have a URL
just keep playing
now.
that over and over again.
Whatever. Yeah, so if you need a psychic reading, you should go to readingsbychava.com. Her name is spelled with C-H-A-V-A.
Otherwise spelled
Darmok Angelad Hataragra.
His eyes uncovered!
Get your eyes uncovered with Hava.
Yeah.
I'm a sales person.
If you say so.
That's the truth. Readingsbychava.com.
Joe, I'm gonna fucking...
Horribly unconvincing.
I'm gonna fucking decapitate myself now. It's fine.
And he's Jesse. Oh, God.
And I'm Jesse.
I apologize. Keep saying that.
You can find me in the underneath the crumbling rubble left over by that explosion.
Yeah.
At soundcloud.com/contingentsboston.
Yeah.
Remember to visit comrade-rosie.org.
Click the Getting Involved tab. Select one or more mutual aid groups to donate your time, labor, and or money to, because people really need your help right now.
And if you want to donate directly to Alston Brighton Mutual Aid, you can go
PayPal.
to
Venmo.
Oh yeah, pay.
They Menmo.
PayPal.me/
Go to Venpal. Penpal.
PayPal.me/
Playpen. Sorry, I'll shut up.
Whatever. Just find it. You can find it wherever you find your wherever you whatever.
If you got cat pictures,
yeah,
send them to Jesse.
Yeah, send me your cat picture.
Yeah.
Send your actual cat to Jesse.
Send your cat.
Put your cat
Turn
in a box.
Jesse's house into a palace of felines.
That's what Carlene wants. She wants that.
It already is a
cat
palace of
sanctuary.
felines.
We love it. Okay.
I searched for public urinal Cuba.
No?
I got a picture of a guy riding a toilet at like high
Riding
speed.
a toilet?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Inappropriate, sir.
It's definitely not in Cuba.
Anyways. Oh, fuck. I forgot. Oh, God. Anyways, yes, like Jesse said, get involved in some sort of local endeavor. You know.
We're on YouTube.
That's true. Thank you. But more importantly, go to our Patreon, patreon.com/epic-incredulity, where you can get some bonus content. Succulent. It's luscious. And then, you know, you can find us on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. It's all at Epic Incredulity. We're also on Facebook. We love it. We love it. I feel so fucking... I am just, you know... You know?
Okay.
I love it.
Sure.
And each week we motherfucking say Batankdo.
Batankdo.
And that's... Frankenstein music is apparently what's playing behind me. I don't know. It's called Frankie.
I'm gonna search for Fidel Castro.
It's fucking...
With cats.
That's your Epoch. Dude, they tried to kill him so many times.
638 times to be exact.
Trying to convince Jesse we should rescue a new cat.
Yes, see,
Harley
she wants
just
the
said
cat.
in the fucking Discord, which you can join if you go to Epic Incredulity.
For
I mean,
$1.
goddamn it, patreon.com/Epic Incredulity. Get the access to the Discord, or just be our friend. Get us a cat. That would be fucking excellent.
Yo, this is upsetting me. I can't find any pictures of Castro with cats.
Maybe don't send one to my address because my grandmother
Maybe
will
he was
just
allergic.
murder it on site.
He's just gonna murder it on sight. He's just gonna kill it. Alright, he's just gonna make it tonight to die. His name is Joe. Oh, he's gonna kill some cat.
Hey,
He's
are
gonna
you
make
actually
it
like a
die.
good singer secretly?
Me? No, I don't know.
I think you are.
Oh, fuck. Come on now.
Why don't you give us a little... Why don't you give us a taste?
I think I just was, sir.
Why don't you give me a taste?
Oh my God. Why don't you just give me a taste? Joe, put it in your face. What you doing? Joe, what you drinking? Is it whiskey? Whiskey.
It's actually from the bottle
He
that
likes
I
to
brought to Ellie's birthday party.
That's some good whiskey.
Yeah, that was
I had a little drink of the whiskey that night. All right, I
You
feel
had
like
a little
fucking
more than
clown.
a little.
Yeah,
I had a couple swigs. I had a couple.
House cat.
You know, maybe Castro was just, you know, he was above cats.
Oh, there
There's
it
a
is.
picture of a cat with a picture of
No,
Castro.
no, I found it.
Picture of a
Okay.
cat with Castro, not
Oh,
Castro
never
with
mind.
cat. So it's
No.
just the same
It's
damn thing.
photoshopped. Son of a
There's a
bitch.
picture.
Son of a fucking what?
Wait a second.
Photoshopped.
Oh, never mind.
Fuck your shop.
Yeah.
He has a tiny bear on a leash.
He's got a
It's almost
tiny
like
bear
that.
on a leash.
He has a dog.
Sounds adorable. I got a tiny bear. He's on a leash. I got a tiny bear. We like to eat my niece. I don't know.
Leash.
Eat my niece?
Leash.
Eat my niece, Joe. Eat my motherfucking
Yeah.
niece.
You don't even have a niece.
I know.
I have a niece. Please don't eat her.
Eat a
I have
fish
a niece.
being.
Don't eat her.
Eat. You know. God damn it. Can we end this?
No, I'm sorry. I'm just,
Do we need like an animal noise? Perhaps.
Ooh. Joe.
What is
I
happening
met this
here?
boy at the club named Joe.
Oh, God. What is
Ellie,
What is
stop
happening?
laughing so
mean?
much. It's hurting
What do you
my
want on the
flow.
track?
Oh, listen to this beat, Joe. What you gotta say about this beat? We wanna know. Go. Don't upset us. Come on, bro.
Fucking horrendous.
I'm trying to pass the mic to you, but you know, you're being a little motherfucker, not going, oh, Joe. Killing me here, dude.
You trying to get Joe to freestyle or something?
Maybe it's a secret
Okay.
tell. We don't know.
good luck with that.
Joe, here, is this better? Wait. Ba la la la, Joe. Give us some. Alright, fine. I give up. I give it up.
See, I
Fine, I tried.
before I
I
would.
tried.
Okay.